Hey musical minds, my name is Eric Rinehart from Eric Rinehart Piano TV, and today I am going to be addressing a question from somebody who commented on one of my videos. Her name is Singing Sophie, so maybe first name Sophie, and today we're going to be talking about the pedals on the piano, and not only how to use them in the sense of what each one does, but also when to use them in certain situations and common mistakes that are used when using them. So we'll get into that just in a minute, but if you're interested in Skype piano lessons, you can email me or comment below at ericreinhardtpiano@gmail.com. If you're interested in Skype lessons, we can do a free 30-minute Skype consult. Anyway, let's get right into it. And so I think I'm going to do this in 3 parts. And so logically, because there are 3 pianos on most, or 3 pedals on most pianos. And so what we're going to start with is we're going to start with the damper pedal, or the furthest one to the right. So just to preface this, what we're going to talk about is proper pedaling technique. And so what you'll see on my leg here is we want to come from the ankle and we want to rotate around that ankle joint. We don't want to lift up our leg like this because that takes a lot of energy. Something that one of my piano teachers taught me is that most people think of the damper pedal being either on or off. There's this masterclass that I took from, I think, Dan Glover in the Bay Area, and what he said is, imagine that there are 8 different levels of level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, halfway, level 5, level 6, level 7, level 8, where you're all the way down. And what that will do is that'll change the sound a little bit. So here we have completely dry, as people like to call it, dry music, so where there's no pedal, or all the way down, which is wet. And you can hear the reverberance going on right now. But then say I put my pedal halfway down, so right there, you can hear that there's a little bit of reverberance. It's not completely dry. And that's with it just down partial ways. And so you're gonna have to experiment on your own to be able to find out or where it is on the pedal and what rotation of your ankle you'll need to be able to get the sound that you want. And the thing to keep in mind with the damper pedal is that you're always aiming for clarity in your piano music. Most music, or a lot of music, is written in this bel canto style, especially Chopin and Romantic music, which is inspired by voice, where the melody is inspired by voice. And so you're always aiming to bring clarity for the listener to be able to easily hear what it is that they're supposed to be listening to. So if the melody in like the famous Chopin Nocturne, so that is the melody, and you want to make it very easy for the listener to be able to hear that. While the damper pedal is used to connect notes, we are sacrificing clarity when we're using it, so we really have to be careful not to let the sound get so muddled that we can't make out individual pitches. I'm going to explain where it's appropriate to change your pedal. So you always want to think, if you are changing harmony, and what does that mean? So say we're going from a C major chord to a G major chord. We would want to change the harmony, or change the pedal at that point, because we don't want to create this harmonic rub. So there's these 2 tones right here, the C and the B, which are on both chords. We want to avoid having that sound coming through, and if we hold down the pedal, we'll get that clash. It's very important to change your pedal often enough so that there is enough clarity, and this is kind of debatable because what I'm talking about is in the mostly romantic and classical era. As you get into the impressionistic era, people like Claude Debussy and Ravel and early 20th century music, the lines start to get blurred. But what I'm talking about here is romantic and classical and Baroque, more specifically. And you're also going to notice that in the classical and Baroque music, you're not really going to be using your pedal nearly as much because they really sought for that clarity. And if you look into the history of the piano, the harpsichord didn't really have that ability to sustain those pitches, and so the piano was still under development, and so those composers rarely or didn't really use it, and you don't really see it in the sheet music. And the only time that you use it now is to try and connect notes. There's a certain fascination with honoring the composer for doing everything as he wanted it to. One other thing to think about is when to change the pedal. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put on a metronome, and so you want to be changing your pedal just slightly after beat 4. Say we're playing all whole notes. You want to change your pedal just before that point where you're playing the new notes, so you can sort of catch the new sound. And it's an empirical trial and error process. What you're really aiming to do is clear the sound, get rid of the previous chord's notes, and add the next chord's notes onto the dampers so that they sustain in the sound. So I'm going to try and demonstrate this here. So down, 2, 3, 4, change. So you see that I'm anticipating beat 1 of the next measure, and I'm trying to clear the sound, and that will greatly add clarity to your music, will prevent this rub that even if people who aren't literate in music, they can tell that dissonance does not sound good, and so they will tell on a subconscious level. One thing to keep in mind is that a lot of beginners tend to either overuse the pedal and not change it enough, or they'll change it too often. So say, for example, you have a C chord, and then you're going to a first inversion C chord. So the harmony is not changing. So there's no musical rub going on, and therefore it would be inappropriate to change the pedal at that point. Closing, the damper pedal is used to be able to connect sound, say if you have large jumps in your music, but you don't want to sacrifice the clarity of the music while overusing the pedal. I hope this has been helpful. My name is Eric Rinehart from Eric Rinehart Piano TV. I also host the Musical Minds podcast on iTunes. So wherever you're watching or listening, I hope you're enjoying this content. And again, you can reach out to me for a free Skype consult, a 30-minute free Skype consult lesson. Anyway, take care.